Hey all you junior Ghostbusters, and welcome back to part 4 of our unboxing of the Ghostbusters board game 2 Yeti tier from Carl Killian. I am the aforementioned Carl Killian. Last time we opened up the box further, we got to the stretch goal pieces of the Extreme Busters, a few of the monsters, as well as my sculpt, though no character card yet. We still got a few boxes left to go into, so let's get cracking. So when if you guys saw the last video, I started showing off sort of the state of the box as is. So here's how it looks currently. Trying to get it in frame. A bunch of meeples at the bottom and 2 boxes at the sides, and you probably can't see this, but there's an envelope in this little crevice right here that probably has a few other goodies. So to give you guys a continuation of the story while I grab the next piece of the box, I left off where I was on set in the waiting area for the casting of not the casting, but the filming of my scene for the Ghostbusters 2016 film. And I say my scene, I was an extra in a crowd. It's nothing too crazy, but I was just fortunate to get the call. So continuing with that story as I move back onto getting the box opened, let us go with this other big side piece right here. With the secret Ghostbuster code FG31648. So I was in the waiting area, and I described it in pretty good detail as to what the scene was. They called us to set in phases, and because I was one of the last people to give them the paperwork, I ended up being one of the last ones called, unfortunately, to the set. As a result, so we didn't go to the set right away. Essentially, we went from the first waiting area, which was a fairly sparse, the under construction side, as I mentioned earlier, to a secondary waiting area. In first waiting area, we got assigned a group number, and if you were on if you had that particular group number, you would be called first to this holding area, and then secondly to the set, which was on actually a street in Boston in the downtown area, financial district, if I remember correctly. We were in this holding area, which was essentially a hotel conference room made up with a bunch of chairs. The type that a lot of conventions use, where they have like the partition wall that they can break down to allow more people to mingle and wait around. We were essentially waiting in there. By this point, let's say I arrived on set around, when would it be? Let's say 6 o'clock in the afternoon or evening. This would probably be around 10 o'clock. There was a lot of downtime, as I mentioned. This is a little bit odd because it seems like they gave me 2 Roylance's guides and Extreme Ghostbusters pieces. This isn't the same box because you can see this Roylance guide is sealed. It's really curious. Could be a mistake. I know that there's quite a few other items to be shipped out, so it's maybe something that I need to contact CZE. It's identical tiles as the last time. That's really unfortunate. Yeah, I will reach out to them and figure out what the heck is going on. Could just be I got an extra box by mistake, and then something else is missing from my order, but we shall see. That's unfortunate though, because that might mean that I'm missing some stuff. Let's box that back up. Having the same sort of issue getting it closed. Yeah, so we were in this waiting area. I'll grab the next box in just a moment, but to kind of wrap up that story, we were in this waiting area. I waited for probably another 2 hours there, and finally got to set around midnight. Basically full dark. There was a lot of lighting on set, but because I had submitted the paperwork as one of the last groups, I was one of the last groups called on set. This had some negative consequences, which I'll go into shortly, but let me grab the next box so we can keep the main event going. Cool. So box number 3 is this guy. Actually, before I continue, let me put that box back, show you the state of things. In the little shipping box, this one was up on the firewall, not much left. Got your envelope, got your meeples, and you got this doohickey. Let's see what's inside. So I was one of the last folks on set. I was in a group of, let's say about 20, and sort of struck up conversation with about 4 other folks on set. Okay, so this box is a little bit more haphazard. Doesn't, like, the glue clearly has come off here, as you can see. And there's a bunch of other items in here as well, so let's see what it is. Doesn't look like it was packed very well, unfortunately. So this is the, I'm going to try to tilt this without dumping all the contents. But this is how the box looked when I opened it up, essentially. You can see that for bracing they put a little bit of styrofoam, but for the most part there's just a lot of stuff sort of thrown in there all together. Let's take a look at what we got. So we've got what looks like another Vigo Mini and stand. Imagine you put the portrait in there, which is nice. Wonder what the purpose of 2 Vigo Minis is. Maybe just one. The default games come with the box, and then this is the stand allows for the portrait. We got another box, rather plastic here that I need to open up. Let's do so. Let's show you how the plastic looks before it gets opened. We got some cards. Looks like there's a rule set for Ally gameplay. The set comes with the real Ghostbusters. You can see their smiling faces down below, and rule sets on the back. Also in this bag is another Chunko Minis. They're not very well packed. Come with a couple of cards, events cards it looks like. Front says on this one, the real Peter, and has a few rules for him. I'm not going to read all of them out loud right now, but it looks fairly different from the other cards we've seen. Still off frame, I got to work on that. So, looks like these are all event cards relating to the real Busters. We got Egon, Winston, Janine. So I imagine those are probably just effects that happened, kind of like Walter Peck in the previous game. They have sort of special things they do to the scenario, either to help or hinder the Busters, which seems like an interesting mechanic. I'd like to dig into that a bit more and learn about it. We've got these ghost whirlwind type things. Looks like they're pieces of other ghosts. I'm not exactly sure what they are for. I know that it's been clarified a few times on the Facebook page, but I will look at the rules a little later to help figure that out. There's also a little box inside that plastic bag. I'm not liking the way this is contained. Okay, looks like we got a bunch of ghost traps, which is cool. Nice little detail on that. Minis of the particular Busters. So we've got what looks like, I think this is Ray, but he's got these really haunted eyes. I don't know if you can make it out, if focus will autofocus or not. You gotta move it back a little bit. But suffice it to say, he's seen better days, no pun intended. We got Janine. Looks like she's tilted a little bit, if you can see. Here, I'll try to hold it up flat. She's kind of doing a moonwalk pose, which is unfortunate. So just to show you how these things are packed in here, they're kind of all jumbled in there, which isn't great. Though I did get my Ecto 2, which is nice. Always love this little helicopter toy, though the wingspan is a bit larger than I anticipated. Ooh, that's not good. Looks like it also is damaged. If you can, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the front wheel looks like one half of it has popped off. I'll inspect these minis later, but traps, the real Busters, and these other sort of plasm tokens, which seem kind of cool. The other difficulty about this thing is that it seems a little bit difficult to get it closed up again. Like you can see some of the pieces just jutting out. Wish they had a better container solution. That's not great. I'll deal with that later. Rest of the bag, as you can see, is just more of the plasm tornadoes, I'm going to call them for now. Each of these things have a little bit of a serial code, which is kind of cool. I guess that's helping them make sure to pack particular orders together. More traps. I was warned by a fellow Yeti, first name Mike. Maybe you can figure out who that is from the rules. I won't mention his last name in case he doesn't want to be further identified. That I should expect a lot of traps, and looks like we got them. That's actually cool. I like these tokens. I might use them in RPs. Yeah, so this was another thing I was forewarned about. I had ordered card sleeves, and I was warned there would be printing errors. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it looks like I'm also hit by this. These guys have been misprinted and have basically, it looks a little like it's every other line is a few pixels to the left, unfortunately. I think there's two types of card backing, how should I describe it? Card protectors. One with that art of the Busters over the City in Flames. I don't know what the other art was exactly. Yes, okay. So this is more, three types actually. So this is them looking at the city over the short view. This one doesn't seem to be affected by printing errors, which is good. Kind of neat. I'm not going to open up all these guys because I think they're all identical. I'm going to open up one of them actually just to make sure that they're all identical. And these guys are, looks like they're just slime background, probably for your items, plasms, things like that. Let us open up. So I'm opening up the misprinted ones. Maybe we can get a sense of how bad the misprint is on all of them. If it's just the top one or if all of them. Yeah, it's all of them. And they're all identical. Just grab another random one from the pile. But still. So just to tell you about the quality of these guys. Feels good. Material seems kind of strong. It's not pulling apart when I use my fingers against it. The back side with the art is a dark black plastic, and the front is a clear plastic, which makes sense. You want to see the card. Feels good to hold. The printed side, less so. You can definitely feel a little bit of the ink affecting the texture, but yeah, it's pretty good. Just putting all of that away. Yeah, so I arrived on set while I'm sort of fiddling with this. With a group of about 20, and 4 of them I struck up a conversation with. We were at literally the end of the scene. There was a, just to give you a sense of how things were laid out, scene was cab with Aaron coming out, crowd section A before the cab, crowd section B nearest the cab, basically adjacent to it, crowd section, and that was sort of in a larger open space. So crowd section A had sort of a narrow alleyway road. Section B was a much more open space, kind of like an intersection with a bunch of, how should I describe this? Open space, storefronts, apartments, things like that. Section C was another group of crowd and another sort of alleyway, with the basically as sort of fill-in. So like, hey, if the camera happens to look over that way, we'll have a sense of there's been people running for quite some time. We see them running on. And in sections A, B, C, there was a set of choreographed cars, I believe a police car, a cab, and a few others, sort of in unison in sort of a tractor-trailer line to give a sense of like the city's still moving. And one interesting note that I saw was that some of the cars had their license plates replaced with New York plates. We were shooting in Boston, just as a reminder, and some of them just had slips of paper over the plates. that I imagine was indicative of this. If it is in frame, it should be CGI, which I thought was kind of interesting. As I'm chatting, I'm going to open up the next bag. This plasm looks like it was loose from the bag, which is interesting. It's another one of the tornado guys. That's kind of curious. I'm really disliking the fact that it was all packed up like this. I apologize, I'm bouncing back between subjects. It's just I want to keep you guys here for the stuff you are interested in. Speaking of, this bag looks to contain a bunch of cards, which is cool. A few more minis. I believe the People Busters, given sort of the image there. And I guess rules on the back for how to play with those People Busters, antagonistic. I think PvP is the way they describe the mode, which is kind of neat. We were not in sections 1, 2, or 3 is the ultimate point. We were in section 4, I would call it, which was basically the furthest from the core action. Basically, if section 3 was meant to be fill-in shots in case the camera panned over there and give you a sense that people were already on site moving away, we were the absolute dead last, like no cameras anywhere near us, and literally just in case anything, like any stray camera shots just saw something, they want to make sure that it looked like there were still people active in that section of the scene. And I will continue the story after I go through this section of the box. Yeah, so just to go in sort of reverse order, as I mentioned, here are the rules. It looks like it's a little fold-out pamphlet / poster. I won't read these guys now, but kind of neat. Oh, kind of looks like a bit of a... Looks like it's combination scenario and rules, which is kind of cool. Item number 2 in the box is tiles. Looks like we got 4 of these. We got... This is kind of cool. So if I'm guessing correctly, I think this is Boo York from the Real Ghostbusters episode Flipside. The reason I'm guessing that is down here you'll have a haunted car, and Boo York looks pretty much like a city, but above we have kind of a blimp right here, which is kind of neat, which was a hallmark of Boo York, a kind of pumpkin-shaped blimp. This isn't pumpkin-shaped, so it's starting to make me think that I might be mistaken, but let's continue. This upper more tile up here, trying to take a look to get a guess. So in Boo York, the Statue of Liberty was placed with like a witch-like icon. This is a miniature version of that statue. What I'm guessing is possibly that is sort of a tourist shop, essentially a ghostly approximation of the sort of Statue of Liberty knick-knack type souvenirs you get in New York tchotchke shops. Flipping this set of tiles over, we've got a, I guess, office complex with a refrigerator inside, and this one looks like just a more city streets with debris on it. There looks to be the remains of a billboard. I'm not sure what else that is indicative of, but yeah, it's kind of just a polluted city street. And then the next set of tiles, this definitely is Boo York. Essentially, there's a scene in that episode where the guys hide in what is akin to a ghostly fashion salon, where essentially they, instead of getting their hair done, get their heads replaced. Kind of a neat premise, but you can tell that this is an homage to that because there's the heads that were featured in that episode there they used for that visual gag. And over here, I'm taking a look at this other tile. This looks like the lobby of the People Busters firehouse. There's the spectral Janine's desk. There's the No Egon symbol for the People Busters. All the cobwebs are indicative of People Busters. Kind of cool stuff. Kind of wish we got more of the People Busters firehouse, kind of the same way with the Ghostbusters firehouse, but beggars can't be choosers. And then here we got the Egon one, the People Busters equivalent to the Ecto one from Bird's Eye View. That's ranking pretty highly in the vehicle polls that I told you about in an earlier video, which is nice. Another sort of generic city street with a crack of slime coming out. So that's kind of cool. Moving on to next contents. We got our cards. So character cards for the People Busters, which is nice. Let us open it up. So, just to give you a sense of what the packaging's like. Sort of a slim, well-fitting envelope. Cards, despite being in that loose box, came in good shape. Print on good cardstock, feels good. Disliking the last name of Egon Cadaver on this character card, but, you know, I suppose we'll deal. Oh, nice. So this is interesting. So we got a character card that you can play as in PvP, but on the flip side, pun intended, you've got a ghost card that, as with other ghost cards, dictates its AI. That's really cool and really elegant solution. I like that. Ray Stivs. Got him here. I always so one thing you can't tell from this picture, but one thing I always liked about this character was he was very much a Frankenstein type character, and as a result, like, he was stitched of oddly misshapen body parts, and one of his hands was a foot, and then one of his feet, one of his feet was a hand, which is kind of a cool touch. I want to look at these later and get a sense of whether or not these cards are identical to the Ghostbusters, I should say. Peter Deadman, don't mind the last name so much. And this one I have a little bit of worry about. Winston Deadmore. Like the name, really dislike the art. I think that he's just to give you a comparison, I think he's way too similar to Peter. I understand the stylistic choices, but it felt like the other People Busters had a lot of personality. Like, these both look like pretty generic zombies, and I get that you can make the case that they're somewhat similar characters, both being down to earth. But, like, Egon is somewhat of a Cthulhu-like skeleton-inspired monster with the face of and the tentacle on the back of his neck rather than the ponytail and sort of the ribs showing out, and the Frankenstein-inspired Ray, I should say. Sorry, drawing a blank. It's late at night. Just the Winston art is pretty uninspired, especially since Dan Schoening did on his DeviantArt account years ago a really cool rendition of Winston Deadmore, where he was more of a golem Frankenstein hybrid, just this large brutish brawler, somewhat akin to the Reclaimers in the IDW comic series, if you're familiar at all, or if you can look it up on the Ghostbusters wiki. That is a good way just to see a quick image of what I'm talking about. But I don't know. This Winston looks, one, white, and two, like, just way too scrawny to be very much of a threat. Like, what made the Peter People Buster so intimidating is sort of the decaying face. You've got the sunken cheekbones, you've got the exposed grin, you've got the missing nose. Like, it really evoked this horrific image, this scary character, whereas this Winston just looks kind of goofy. Like, I'm sorry, like, to keep ragging on this, but it's been bugging me for a while, and I all apologies to Dan. He did some lovely character art for me, but yeah, I don't know. Like, assuming Dan was the one who did this art, I'm not a fan of this design. I liked your other design better. Yeah, just sharing my 2 cents. Apologies if that went on way too long. So we got a little bit left in this bag. Looks like we've got a unique set of cards versus Ghostbusters versus People Busters cards. What I assume is you have competing objectives between your 2 factions, which would be kind of interesting. The front size is choose 1. In this instance, it's respawn a contained teammate. Treat them as if they have not been played yet this round, or investigate any goo pile. Kind of interesting. Back of the cards again. So you have you have objectives that are not objectives, but you have options to sort of supplement your gameplay with these cards, which is kind of neat. That's cool. And that is it, save for the minis. So we'll get to those in a moment while I'm putting these away. Um, yeah, I apologize for the disjointed story. Here's the bag containing the People Busters minis. Kind of curious why they didn't do a People Buster Janine since they did a People Buster, or a real Ghostbusters Janine. So here's the Winston mini. So the mini itself doesn't look too bad. I think the posture helps with this one, especially sort of the more lumbering side of things. But yeah. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. Golem, Winston, good. Egon, Do, Ray, and his, unfortunately, proton, or slime. I wonder if they have slime blower rules, but his slime blower is bent, unfortunately. And then People Buster Peter is another Moonwalker. Though with his hair, he looks kind of a little Eduardo-ish. Maybe you can swap him out and have him be Slime Blower Eduardo for a custom rule set. That seems to be... Oh, no, wait. So that was the end of that bag, but I seem to have an envelope in this thing. I don't know what's inside. Could be my dice tower. I know that's something I was expecting. Let's take a look. So, envelope itself. Get it a little bit out of frame so you can get a sense of the dimensions. Cool. Let's open it up and see. So, get on set. With this crowd of people, they are really... and I'm on the far side of the set. Basically, unless there's a stray camera shot, I'm nowhere in frame, which really sucks. Especially since I did what I assumed was right. Especially when... So, to clarify, I had asked, hey, do you need this paperwork now? I didn't see anybody else working on it. And like a dummy, they said yes, and I did it, making me late to... Not late to set, but later to set. So... open this up. Looks like we've got the dice tower. Looks kind of neat. Got the real Ghostbusters firehouse, or the Ghostbusters firehouse, I should say. Folds out relatively easily, which is nice. Give you a sense of the damn you inverted camera frames. Sense of the dimensions. I'll set that up later, but that's kind of neat. And I don't believe there's anything else in the envelope. But that's the inside of that. Yeah, so ended up getting later on set, which meant I got a worse position, and they called action without giving us any sort of instructions. I understand that you're limited in the types of instructions you can give to an extra, but even so, that was kind of frustrating because literally, like, all these people were running around us, and we weren't sure if we should be running, if not. Like, we basically, like, hugged the wall and waited for someone to tell us what to do until we got instruction. Like, it could be inferred that we should run, but the safer course of action, because I didn't want to ruin the shot, was to just do nothing and wait to be instructed. So eventually we flagged down one of the stage hands. They were kind enough to let us know, hey, what should these extra do? Oh, run, okay. So as with the crowd, we ran, did a couple of shots, and it was kind of unfortunate because one of the extras with us was this sweet old lady who did not have much... obviously she was in her older years, and doing all this running was kind of a chore for her, to say the least. Painful even. But she's toughed it out. We stayed there for about 2 hours. It was about 2 in the morning. They said they were done with that scene, asked us to go off to back into the under construction waiting room and wait. We were there until about 4 in the morning. They called it a wrap for the day, and we all went home, waiting to be called back. I believe I was called back at one point, but had to decline because I had a job interview, and of course, stable source of income was more important than dreams of being a Ghostbuster, though fulfilled here in part, as you can see. Ultimately, the scene was cut from the movie. I wasn't ever seen on film, though in my heart, I canonically exist in that universe, and I'm still out of frame. Hi, guys. Yeah, so that was a really great opportunity. Kind of sucks that was a lot of waiting and a little bit disappointing, but it was still really cool to see that side of the process and hear some tidbits about the film early on. Like, Stay Puft was going to be in it, Slimer was going to be in it. I was under NDA at the time, but it was still really cool. I didn't meet any of the film cast or stars other than people who were extras like me, one of which was in the heavy metal scene, was actually behind one of the Busters in one of the shots. I don't know if it actually made it in the film, I never looked, but it was really cool sort of getting tidbits from them and getting a sense of what else might be in the movie early on. But yeah, that was my glorious time on the stage and screen. My sister has me beat. She actually was an extra in one of I think the third episode of Sopranos. She was a girl in the chorus. They actually cast the singers from our local high school, and she was in that crowd. She was actually on screen for a few seconds, which was really nice. I think she was actually up right next to the daughter of Tony Soprano, which was cool. I have a younger brother. He still has yet to make his debut on screen, but we can always be helpful. All right, let's get to the last little bit of box stuff. I'm going to hold off on opening the meeples, since those might have been sent to me by mistake, as with the extra box of the Roylance Guide and such whatnot. So let's take a look at what's in the envelope. I think that's the last bit of stuff we have to look at, and see if I got my character card. So just a sec. All right, so putting that aside. Also, just to give you one last little point of clarification, this type of box is not exactly easy to repack. This pizza box style. I'm gonna have to find a better solution for that. So, final state of big box is like so. I've got the meeples, which I mentioned I won't open today, just to give you a sense of what the packaging looks like. So, let's get this out just real quick. We got one. Here's what the packaging looks like on the front. Here's what it looks like on the back. Feels like there's about 3 of these guys in here, so I assume I got the Peter Ray Slimer combos. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We got 10 of these guys, which is not great. I mean, it's nice of them to send it, but it's not something I had asked for, and I wonder if it was sent to me by mistake and some other poor guy didn't get what they asked for. So I will follow up with them and figure that out. But we got this last piece, which is the envelope. Just to check around the box real quick, there's also these foam inserts and cardboard inserts. Nothing appears to be on any of those. So this is the last bit of stuff. And I'm again out of frame. Because we're done with the table, let's just lower it down. Hi guys. Tripod is going to self-correct. So, envelope was not glued, presumably for easy access. Feeling around inside. That's really cool. Carl Dan Killian III, heir to the Killian fortune. Can you see the resemblance? You know, handsome guy. Nothing on the back. We got signatures by Eric and a few others at the bottom as well, which is really, really neat. Oh man. I honestly think I'm going to get this frame. This is really cool. Just give you a bit more in frame. You know, I don't tend to be a bit at all egotistical, but this is really, really cool. And finally, character card. We got it. We got one! Comes in this nice little Ziploc bag. Fits very well. Gonna feel the card itself. Solid card stock. Feels about the same as the other stuff. And this one I am gonna read, because it's not gonna be something you get to see too often. I'm gonna cover up the back, because it's got my signature, but you see the sort of custom rules on the back. Level 1 ability, Shock Blast. Once per turn, you may spend a maneuver to make a free combat action against an adjacent enemy. If you do not place a stream or mood slime element. Instead, push that entity up to 2 spaces away. Essentially, this is the shotgun blast from the Dark Matter Generator pack I had mentioned earlier. Level 2 ability. When you reach this level, reveal cards from your deck, from the equipment deck until you find 2 tome cards. Draw 1, then shuffle the revealed cards back in the deck. Really wasn't sure what to do for my level 2 ability, so I just sort of put this ability akin to what Ray does. Since I'm enthusiastic like him, I'm very well read, and I thought that's something tying to tomes, since I was creating Writing Major. Writing is a big thing that I care about in the games that I design, narrative in particular, that something to do with that would be, you know, somewhat fitting for the character. Level 3 ability, Stasis Stream. Once per turn, you may spend an action to color mark an entity who is within line of sight. When the color marked entity would move, it moves 1 space less for each stream on it. Again, this is akin to the Stasis Stream from the Ghostbusters video game, where the more you concentrate your fire on it, the slower the enemy gets. I translated this to basically moving around, and also part of that design decision was a reaction to the amount of chasing enemies you did on the board. Level 4, Ready to Believe. This is one of the biggies. Ecto-Tank ability, 4 plasms. Each Ghostbuster may copy an ability. Non-Ecto-Tank, non-equipment draw ability. I'm sorry, let me reread that. Ready to Believe. Ecto-Tank ability, 4 plasms. Each Ghostbuster may copy an unlocked non-Ecto-Tank, non-equipped card draw ability from another Ghostbuster during their turn. This is something akin to the Rookie, but also it affects the entire party. And the logic behind this was I tried to be a little bit of a cheerleader in terms of the teams I'm on and the things that I do. I'm a bit of a leader, but I also have that wide-eyed enthusiasm of wanting to learn like the Rookie. So getting sort of the best of both worlds in that ability was part of the reason behind that. And then level 5, again, just copying Ray on this one was unlock your Class S Tome equipment card, again going to the sort of tie to the writing side of my nature. And then last but not least, I'm going to go read the level 1 and level 3 special rules on the back. Again, you can see them on the back here, covering up my signature because I don't want you guys to copy my credit card information or have that access to that. But I will scan the card. I don't know how I'm going to address that. I guess we'll find out. Level 1, Shock Blast. You may either choose 1 or 2 spaces when pushing the entity. It's pretty straightforward. Level 3 ability is the biggie. Stasis Stream. Entities color marked from the Stasis Stream ability with at least 1 stream on them are removed from the scenario. That's not quite what I had asked for, which is not great. I'm just rereading this right now. Entities color marked from the Stasis Stream ability with at least 1 stream on them are removed from the scenario. Yeah, that's really not what I asked for. Matayo and I had worked on that. It was supposed to work in conjunction with the Shock Blast ability, which is not what this does, which isn't great. I'm going to have to talk to Cryptozoic about that. Maybe get this card reprinted. Yeah, sorry. I'm just going to... yeah, I got to think about that. I'm sorry about that. Just looking at the card a little closer, it looks like there's a little bending on the corner. Obviously, I'm not very satisfied about that, but we'll figure that out as time goes on. But that is everything from the box. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Really looking forward to getting to play with, just scanning this card and sharing it with you guys. Until next time, I'm ready to believe you. Thanks again.